Hi, I'm Alicia. Hi, I am continuing to do what I was encouraged by friends to do, which is to essentially give my thoughts while I'm walking. I do think a lot while walking. So, I was just barely thinking about how it's kind of like a policy item that's being debated um, right now, given certain governmental action, but how, like, sure, immigrants come to the US illegally, but they really do work that nobody else does. What sparked that is a Home Depot that I pass, a second Home Depot that I pass in LA. It's just, there's not any day laborers waiting in the parking lot to get picked up. And also, there's no like street vendor, which she was, according to um, somebody who talked with me, and according to the East Sider LA, um, they she was detained. That's why this street vendor is gone. So that, I mean, even doing street vendor work is not something that I've seen anybody except for Latin Americans do in LA. And of there's a lot of food trucks, usually tacos, but or burritos or something like that. But it's always Latin Americans. So these, so that, let alone day labor, really like grunt work, it's just not done. And this is why Trump was gonna not take away such immigrants from farmers, and then he like undid that the next day, But that seems to suggest that even he knows, despite all of his rhetoric about immigrants and the need to detain, that's what it is, it's rhetoric. It even suggests that he knows too that it's just some of these farmers' businesses, and really an entire farming industry, to my understanding, cannot operate without these workers. So yes, they broke the rule, but not only are these workers needed, the immigration system in America is just a cluster F. And I've known this since I took a college course in 2010 where I had to learn details about it. And this is why there was the Gang of Six in Congress in 2013. This is why we flat out were going to have a new bill, or a new law, a bill that would pass, if not for Trump saying to Republicans it was bipartisan. And Trump said to Republicans last year, don't pass it because it's going to hurt my chances of winning the election. So it's just really backwards that this is how we're dealing with immigration. It's so backwards, even from a logic standpoint, even from a Spock standpoint. So I have a friend who has encouraged me to watch Star Trek, and I have to say, if it were up to me, I would have been raised on Star Trek instead of Star Wars. Now I think Star Wars will probably never go away for me, and I'll just always be interested in whatever they put out there, whatever Lucasfilm put. But Star Trek is, I mean, I think there's a reason why it was like, um, why it, why it inspired so many people to get into space exploration and that sort of thing. Because um, to have a dream of working for NASA and stuff, because and also just to innovate in related spaces, because just here's a couple of reasons why it's really amazing. So one is when the crews, like the crews of the Enterprise, interact with other civilizations, when they make first contact, they are always learning that each, like, different aspects of a civilization. My point is, every single civilization in Star Trek has its own unique attributes and its own unique features. And I think that's actually true of our universe. Because first, I think it's narcissistic to say that we're the only ones. Plus, there's some pretty damn good video footage of sightings of extraterrestrial things, right? Like including what the Pentagon acknowledged like the Navy acknowledged in 2017, and released footage of craft going incredibly fast, to say the least, in regards to the velocity. And so that's one example why Star Trek's amazing. Another reason why, and I can't like say that, I don't know if I'll ever at this point like it as much as Star Wars, and I'm even not saying it's as entertaining. I mean, just if I go back to thinking as a kid, like there's not lightsabers, you know what I mean? Just from like a primal perspective, from when you're a kid and why you get into stuff. But and I'm not upset with my birth dad here, but if he just, for instance, had been way into Star Trek instead of like sports or whatever, that's my point is, I would still have that today. Like, he loves Major League Baseball. I don't give a fuck about baseball. I think it's such a boring sport. I don't know why we do it, frankly. Like, it's just barely interesting. Because it's just so slow and you just stand there, But yeah, if he had been into Star Trek, I would have been in it. Or my mom, I would have been into Star Trek. And but another reason why it's amazing is the idea of logic versus emotion. And this is, I thought before I started watching more, I thought it was more about like the emotion of Kirk / humans versus the logic of Spock / his species, Vulcan. And I think that same idea is with Klingon. I think, if not, it certainly is with Data in Star Trek, the Next Generation. Not the last. Good thing it's not the last, because there's been a lot more Star Trek since then. which is fine. Except I don't know about Discovery stealing the Enterprise's thunder. Especially if I was a Trekkie, I would be like, but that's another one of several reasons why Star Trek is a really amazing show. And then I heard the same friend told me, I don't know if he'd want his name said for reasons related to, anyway, but related to his job. So I won't say his name, but, and I'm sorry for pausing. I really am sorry. And it's not, I didn't see that coming. But he said that Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, had like 3 times where he like survived plane crashes. And so you just go, wow, like, maybe like George Lucas amazingly survived a car crash when he was a teenager, and he thinks that he has a purpose. So I wonder if Roddenberry thought the same. Roddenberry isn't alive anymore. I've seen the hospital where he died. But um, okay, I am at my destination, and like Star Trek is a little dull sometimes, but it's the philosophy that it's carrying forth through mythology